Good evening. My name is Elliot Salloway. I come to you this evening as a member of Boston Global Forum and also a co-founder of an organization called Project Exodus that myself and my colleague in Berlin co-founded 4 years ago. We are proposing a global art contest that will ask the question, are crimes against humanity preventable? And by crimes against humanity, we're including genocide, we're including wars between countries and within countries, all very appropriate now with what's going on in the Ukraine and what could possibly be going on between Japan and China. I'd like to read a very short quote which might describe better what we are doing. One of evil's greatest tools is that of apathy and closed-mindedness. Boston Global Forum looks to present art as an instrument of communication, which has a long cultural history from ancient cave art, religious art, and propaganda up to today's advertising campaigns. Through the language of art, Boston Global Forum seeks to stimulate sustainable impact in terms of awareness and discussions among global populations addressing questions of the relationship of art to human rights and human issues. A particular concern today is the potential for a world conflict over the disagreement between China and Japan on the small uninhabited islands in the East China Sea. This issue could pull the U.S. and potentially the rest of the world into a global conflict which was similar to the one in World War I. Also, the worry of Russia's recent intrusion into the Ukraine is a very, very current issue. With the aid of the Internet, art can now be utilized even more efficiently to increase the numbers of rescuers in the world. Project Exodus and Boston Global Forum will sponsor a global art contest asking the question, can crimes against humanity be prevented, with particular reference to wars between nations. Let me define the word rescuers just a bit. It is well known then in many or all conflicts, particularly ones where there are genocide is involved, there's always 4 players. They're the perpetrators, which are usually a small group of people, the victims, which are a large group of people, the bystanders, which are an even larger group of people, and a small group of rescuers. Schindler was an example of this during Nazi Germany, and just recently there was a wonderful Japanese man who is now deceased, who was discovered to have saved thousands of Jews during World War II, in direct opposition to the wishes of his government, and at great risk. I would also like to read a very short quote, and I promise this is the last time I'll read anything, by a philosopher named Mudashane, from an article in a journal entitled Transmitting Genocide and Art. For its receiver, genocide art, with all its capacity to arouse our emotion and empathy, transmits something that we cannot see or engage within the factual reporting of that genocide or in a political analysis of the topic. Through art, it is possible to encounter genocide at an individual, personal level. As Mudashane points out, we seem to need symbolic expressions to help us understand and deal with the complex nature of events so horrific that reason and emotion fail to grasp their magnitude. To the intellect, many aspects of these experiences are unfathomable, and yet, to keep our humanity, we need to understand them. Where words and explanations fail, we look for images. This is the underlying direction that my own group, Project Exodus, has taken, working with children worldwide. We've grouped professional artists with teenage students, mostly in Germany and in Latvia now, working in week and 2-week seminars with shows at the end, which are very well attended. And again, the same question is asked: how can crimes against humanity be prevented? And these shows have been very successful. It wasn't the hundreds of people who came to the shows and discussed it. It was the news media, particularly the internet, which picked up on these discussions. A great example was the work we did with the Strassler Institute at Clark 2 years ago, which is one of the only PhD programs in genocide studies in the world. We had a show where we worked together with youngsters from an alternative think tank school in Worcester, and the show was well attended by hundreds of people, but it was the news media that picked up on this, both hard copy news and internet news, which gave it such more sustainable impact. I like that term because it's not just what happens the day it happens, but it's the months and years afterwards. All of these things can be seen. We will publish on Boston Global Forum references to the website, and also examples of the images that the children and the professional artists executed, and in particular my own work, where my objective is the two sides of human nature. I paint beautiful pictures of tango dances superimposed on blueprints of images of concentration camps, of gas chambers, because people tend to turn away from horrific images, as the quote said, but by looking at beautiful images and then looking behind them, they can see that there is evil behind the beauty. And hidden evil is among the worst kind because, of course, we don't recognize it until it's upon us. The question has been asked to be more particular, with perhaps examples about how art can affect prevention of crimes against humanity and wars between people. Now, of course, art can only ask questions, it can't answer them, but it can certainly help to expose things that are happening in the world where in the recent past, even 50 years ago, we had no awareness of these things. For example, I was in Tokyo in early November at a meeting where the editor of the Wall Street Journal in Tokyo was talking about the situation between China and Japan over these uninhabited islands. And he asked me my opinion. Unfortunately, I really had no opinion because I had not heard much about it at that time. As Professor Tom Patterson has pointed out, the traditional media often doesn't pick up on things until they're a crisis. This is a good example of that. In World War II, there are many examples of the ignorance of what was happening in the concentration camps sponsored by the Nazi Party, and this often did not come to light until the late 40s or after the war. This is what we hope in the future to prevent. with the advent of the internet, with the advent of global communication, using graphic media to say words that would take paragraphs of reading in one short glimpse, I think is much more effective.